I'm currently the co-founder of an AI software company called BumpUps, funded by Google. So let me give you perspective on how to create scalable architecture within software. Welcome back, y'all. As you already know on this channel, I go over a lot of topics when it comes to leveraging artificial intelligence in a business. And a lot of my content has been centralized around coding out actual software when using AI. This content is very much focused on the sense of logic-based coding, where you don't have to have that much experience in coding and still build out fully functional, full-stack applications. I got an entire front-end playlist that's 3 hours and 30 minutes long, an entire back-end playlist that's 2 hours and 30 minutes long. But one thing that's reoccurring throughout those playlists and throughout these tutorials is the idea of building scalable software, and more specifically, a focus on architecture within software. So in this video, we're gonna go over that topic, and I'm gonna tell you the difference between a new little startup and a more maturing software in the business world. Because as we know with AI, it will tell you that, hey, this is the best way to code out an output. But in reality, if you don't have context of the truly best way, you're probably going to find yourself in rabbit holes that are no good. So we don't like that. Let's talk about it. So day 0, just starting, you just opened up your IDE, VS Code, Cursor, whatever it may be. You're about to start. You're going to start with one repo. Now, I did an entire series here on the back end, which you can just, I will go ahead and just put in the description down below. This is a free code repo that I showed you with a bunch of different functions that just work out of the box. This is completely free, ready to go. Just click the link. Everyone has access to it. Just to take a real quick step back, if you don't even know what a code repo is and what a GitHub is and everything about it, let me give you a little bit more context here real quick. Idea behind this is that on our computer, when we code a file that's local on our computer, example, your laptop breaks and you don't have a GitHub repo, that means you lose that code forever. The way we leverage GitHub and these repos is our ability to have our code in the cloud, but this also allows for management when it comes to pushing out new features. If something really just messes up with one of your code pushes, you can roll back to a branch. I'm gonna do another video on this topic, but all you need to understand is this, and what you've probably seen up to this point. When you are just starting out building out a software, speed is of the essence. Your ability to get from .0 to now we have a payment provider, Stripe API integrated, now we have services, now we have XYZ authentication, whatever it may be, speed is of the essence. So therefore, using one repo, e.g. actual backend app, this is where all the code is associated. The front end and the back end is advantageous. As in reality, when you're starting out, scalability is not of the importance. So you can have one repo where you're pushing not only the front end changes, put an F here for front end, but also are pushing the back end changes. So whatever you're using, you're just pushing towards one repo. Go, go, go. And that is typical development in the early stages of a startup. But here's what happens when you start maturing as a software and basically stuff really becomes real. Real in the sense of you're making money, you're hiring employees, and you're just off to the races. As a quick side note, I'm actually doing an entire series on this channel. I don't know if it's come out yet or not. It might have not. I usually schedule these videos out. I'm showing you how to hire unpaid interns, step by step, everything associated with it, legal contracts, how to vet relevant interns, how to handle yourself in interviews. There's gonna be like a series from step 1 to step 6 or something like that, where I show you how we do it internally within our software company. So keep a lookout on that, as you can hire unpaid interns to work within your software company. But before you would do that step, you need to do the next part here, which is going to allow for scalability for software development. So your situation right now is you're deploying to one repo. You do npm build start, Firebase deploy. It all builds as one big package to prod or QA. That in itself, as you build a larger application, takes a good amount of time because you're building so much code and compiling so much code. This is where you go from a mono repo architecture to a poly repo architecture. So instead of us having just one little repo, we're going to have multiple. So boom, boom, and boom. What do you mean, Corbin? Watch this. As we know in this mono repo here, we have the front end and the back end. One of your repos is going to be just the underlying code for the UI. Call it like XYZ company, XYZ UI. The only code that's going to be in XYZ UI is going to be your front-end code. That's it. Then from there, we're breaking down other parts that are a part of your mega repo. So as we know from that tutorial from my back-end series here, one of the functions here was our ability to access OpenAI's API and do an artificial intelligence type of output. This was found in the Python functions folder. In theory, we would take the Python functions folder, assuming there is a ton more functions associated in Python, and create a whole separate repo just for those functions. This could granularize a little bit further here, where maybe you want the Python functions associated with purchases as its own repo. And then you want the Python functions associated with value you provide the end consumer as its own repo. So the idea here is, for this example, we could just do Python. Maybe we're not going as far as separating the underlying Python type of functions, which I encourage you to do, but assuming we're doing like a general one, we could do XYZ company Python, which then leads into the functions folder here, which was JS. We could associate with XYZ JS, or alternatively, as we know from that series, that was authentication. So we could do XYZ auth, but in reality, we could call this XYZ infra for infrastructure, e.g. the underlying repository will need to run no matter what throughout the application development process. What do I mean by that? Let me give an example. Once I get this example, I'm going to break down the advantages of going to a poly repo. The idea is this. Let's say instead of just doing like XYZ Python, we do like XYZ purchases. And this is like all of our functions that are associated with purchase logic, e.g. all of our Stripe API documentation and Stripe files. What we can do now, in theory, is for us to commit a change, there's going to be certain repos that we need access to actually make the change. You don't need access to the entire application to make the change, maybe to a Stripe situation. So what this means then for the developer is that when giving access to the underlying repo, we could be like, okay, well, you need to make changes to purchases, which means that you'll probably need access to infra. You'll probably need access, obviously, to a repo associated with purchases. And then maybe we want to provide access to the UI as well. So we can load all three of these and then make the change, push it to the branch. Notice that within this logic, they're not getting access to XYZ Python because it's not necessary for the changes that are required from that individual. So therefore, let's break it down of why this is fundamental. So first major reason why this needs to happen for a maturing software is deployment time. What this means is that when we were just doing a mono repo, it would take much longer to deploy the entire application because we are just running through all the code. Now, when we make a change to maybe just infra, it's only going to be compiling infra code. Therefore, we're going to be deploying a lot faster to QA and prod. Now, right now, you might like, Corbin, who cares? It only takes me like 20 seconds to deploy. Trust me, when you build bigger software applications that are a lot more complex, deployment times can get very lengthy. I mean, I've heard stories of deployment times getting to 10 to 15 minutes long because of that much code. So deployment time. Repo management. If you have a team of 12 individuals all working on the same software and every single one is creating a branch for the same repo, it can get messy really quick. Although, if we break that down to where maybe, all right, 3 people on the team are going to be working on XYZ Python repo. Okay, 4 people on the team are going to be working on XYZ UI. It separates it. It makes it a lot cleaner and the code doesn't get really nasty really quick. Therefore, scalability is huge here because if you have a team of 10 to 20 software developers, oh no, you don't want one repo. Trust me on that. No mono repo. Which leads us into the next major reason why, which is security. We already know this, but code is extremely valuable. That's why a lot of software companies, we call them unicorn companies, because the fact of their evaluations are nowhere near the recurring revenue they're getting either annually or monthly, but because it's software in itself, software can be applied across the world. Anyone can consume it if you build it correctly. We need to ensure we have security. When working with multiple employees, you don't want to give just one repo, which is your entire code. You're basically, you ever seen SpongeBob? You know, like Krusty Krab's secret formula? Like, you don't want to give the entire secret formula away. You need to split this up into multiple repos as shown here, as the individual that maybe is on the backend team will only get access. Let's say there's like 8 repos. That's compartmentalizing your original one repo. 8 repos, backend team or backend employee needs to access 3 of those repos. Good to go, proceed, let's get some work done, let's build, let's have fun. Not, they need access to all 8. There'll never be a situation where an individual will need access to all 8 unless you're obviously the owner of the underlying software company. There are more reasons why poly repos are amazing, but that gives you perspective on what creates scalable architecture within your software. Therefore, let me end the video of this. Your next question might be, Corbin, when do I make this transition? To each their own in this perspective, but I say you stick with the mono repo as long as possible. is you're just gonna be able to build a lot faster. It's a lot simpler. You don't have to deal with all the complexities of having multiple repos. Just go, 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 and go. Your transition from monorepo to polyrepo needs to occur when you start hiring people or onboarding more people to work at your company. This goes to say that, let's say you're building out a software and you have one other co-founder or two other co-founders. I still encourage you to do monorepo. I wouldn't necessarily transition to polyrepo unless one, your software is making a ton of money. So if it is one person and you're making a ton of money, then yeah, you need to transition to polyrepo. But in the short term, stick with monorepo, but keep everything you just learned today in the back of your mind when you plan on making that transition, onboarding employees, and you can check out a whole playlist of how to do that on this channel here, then switch to poly. That covers today's video. Make sure to leave a like. It's completely free. I'll see you in the next video. Mono, poly, 2 random videos. That's my face. I'll see you in the next video.